Our title tonight is Manna from Heaven. And need one more chair, looks like.
Yes, to be good.
Is your tape working?
Gator, I'm going to connect you on the stud here.
Oh. Can you find another chair?
Think of our Garcia.
Oh, we'll start all over again. Since everybody's here now. This is number 59, and this is entitled Manna from Heaven. I just got a few words written down, but I like to read them so I get them right. It came in the middle of the night the other night. I got up and had to write them down. As the water turns to wine, so does the manna from heaven feed your souls. The manna is expressed from the heart of God and is impressed to the hearts of mankind. This is a continuous process, is always available to the dwellers on your plane. Very few understand creation as it truly is. Manna is a spiritual force that Moses used to bring forth the bread into being, to feed the people in the wilderness. Manna is the cohesive spiritual energy that Jesus used to feed the multitude from the lad's lunch. Do you remember that from the Bible? Let's turn our lights on. Let's have a quiet time before we start. Let's close our eyes and relax our body and realize that each one here is a part of the channel. Each one in the circle is lending their life force to this circle of light. And let's lift our thoughts above and beyond the physical plane, turn loose of the day and all the happenings of the day. Let us bring our full attention to this present moment and this place. For us right now, nothing exists outside of this room. Let's lift our thoughts and think of this circle as a channel that lifts up to the higher dimensions of divine love and light and allows the teachers to talk through this voice and bring you the messages of divine love. Feel the power of spirit. Feel the presence of your teachers and guides from the invisible side of life, from the higher dimensions, and be open and receptive. Thank you, Father. Good evening, my dear ones. This is Don, your door opener from this side of life. We are very pleased to see these new ones here this evening, and your circle grows larger. And as time goes by, you will understand how the ones from this side of life are many, many more, because they do not need any space to be here. There are many such as you from this side of life who have come to learn and to understand, for they did not have an opportunity to experience something like this when they were in the physical. And they are very pleased to be here. Open your hearts to them and send them God's love, and realize that your teachers and guides are here in the Spirit of God, and the Master is lending his power of his love to bring this channeling through this evening. It is indeed a wonderful thing to understand the process of creation, to understand how creation is brought into being. As you think of this, realize that you are continually bringing creation into being. You are making things, you are bringing new ideas down into your physical plane, and as you understand that nothing happens just from the physical plane, you realize that everything has to start at the highest point of consciousness, at the spiritual level. And as it flows down through your mental dimensions as an idea, and you take this idea and use it, give it power of thought, and when you give it enough power of thought, you have formed a pattern, and the life force flowing through this pattern brings about the reality on the physical plane. Now, for most of you, this is a slow process, and when the Master Jesus was on the physical plane, he took the lad's lunch, and with one fish and a loaf of bread, and multiplied it many, many times, and fed the multitudes that were there. This is called, could be called, the manna from heaven. And it is the life force that you may have heard of the Hawaiians use. It is a word that has been brought down from many ages. It is a word that means bringing physical manifestation into being on your physical plane. Moses used it to feed his people when they were in the wilderness. And as you think of yourself on this physical plane, some of you might consider that you are in the wilderness and that you need to be fed the manna of life. Now, we can use this word as bringing in to being physical things, but let's also raise it a little higher and think of the manna feeding your souls. For it is truly this that mankind on your plane needs more than anything else. There are some on your plane who are starving for physical food, and this is their karma, and they are here to work this out, but they will come back again and bring a greater understanding of the law of abundance. But we, from this plane, are interested in working with you to understand the law of the manna to feed your soul. I would like to ask Don if he would turn the air conditioning on. Just please, thank you. I perceive that some of you are a little warm, and I would like your full attention. As we move forward with this subject of manna, realize that it can be on many dimensions. You can, as you grow into a master of this plane, you can bring forth physical things into being instantly, as Moses and Jesus did. This would be interesting and would be very exciting for you. But my dear ones, it is much, much more to be fed from the spiritual side to your souls, for it is the lack of food for the soul that causes so many problems on your physical plane. It causes the wars, it causes your depressions and unhappiness and misunderstandings about life, because you are hungry. You are hungry for the manna of life in your soul. There is none in this room that has gone hungry for physical food, but you, as you move higher in consciousness, your hunger grows more, because when you understand a little bit, then you want a little bit more, and your thirst for wisdom and understanding of the laws of life will continuously be there, for there will always be something to understand and to learn throughout eternity that has no beginning and has no end. I was considering how I could think of an example to give you of feeding your souls. Some of you overfeed your body when it is actually hunger of the soul, and you try to satisfy it with food or with drugs or with alcohol or something else to stem the hunger that you feel that is actually not a physical hunger. It is a spiritual hunger. My dear ones, whether you realize it or not, you are divine, you are God's, and you are spiritual in nature. You are wearing a physical body, and you have a mind as tools to work through, to manifest on this physical plane and on the lower dimensions. But your true nature is spirit, and this spiritual being that you are will continually call you forth to understand and to grow in consciousness, to move higher in awareness of the real truth of life. You see, there's so much of your time spent on this physical plane just feeding your body and clothing it and getting by with what is going on the physical plane. I tell you, my dear ones, in this coming golden age that some of you will see and be in, there will be no shortage of anything, and there will be very few jobs, as you call them, to work at. There will be an abundance, a great abundance of everything will be here, and this is why it's called the golden age, is because the abundance is already coming, and your machinery and your computers are taking away jobs, and people are upset about this. But if they could see the larger picture, when things will change, your monetary system will change, your ability to survive without working at a job will be here in this golden age. It will be maybe a few hundred years before this happens. But in this next 2,000 years, you will be able to have the abundance that will take care of your physical needs. For example, there is a country that is rich with oil in the east, and each one that is a part of that country receives an abundance of money, and they do not have to work. And this is the beginning of an example of what is to come for the whole planet. The manna from heaven will be manifested on many dimensions. But my dear ones, it first has to manifest on the spiritual dimension of your being, and then brought down into the mind to bring understanding that you can put into your language, and then you will understand and know as you move higher in consciousness. To move higher in consciousness, you must turn loose of so much activity on the physical plane. It is wise for you to consider taking 10% of your time for your soul's growth and to feed your soul. There is so much to do on your physical plane now that you are overrun with many, many things to do. Consider using the manna of life to change your way of living and to bring forth into your understanding the ability to have the time to spend on your soul's growth. For, my dear ones, this is the only reason that you are in the physical body, is to learn, to grow, to understand, to reach higher in consciousness, to understand your real being as a spiritual being, as a divine being. And as you learn to use the manna from heaven that is always available to you, then you can bring into being whatever you want your life to be. You are doing this now. Your life is what you have used the manna to make it. And if it is not as good as you would like, then consider changing your thinking patterns and bringing the manna into being in a better way. The manna from heaven is your spiritual inheritance of the ability to create, because you are a co-creator with the Creator of all life. You are made in the image and likeness of the Creator. And as you understand this and realize that whatever your life is, that you and you alone have created it, then you can decide to create something better for yourself. I tell you, this is true, and from many of your points of view, it is difficult for you to see that you could create more supply, more abundance in your life to have the time to give to your soul's growth. But you can, my dear ones, when you make a decision to give value to the spiritual, more value to the spiritual than you do to the physical. It is not easy, for you are programmed and conditioned to work hard, to make a lot of money, to be successful, and be noticed as a successful being on the physical plane. This is all right for you to have an abundance of everything that you want. But when you spend 95 to 98% of your time in just the physical plane, you see, the physical is less than 2% of life. You're missing the mark. You're missing out on so many things that life has to offer to you. You can bring into being, through the process of manna, the kind of life that you desire. But you have to get yourself in alignment with the spiritual laws of life. Most on this plane are at odds with themselves. They're having a war going on inside themselves, and they are dissatisfied, and they do not understand what life is really all about. They see only with the physical five senses. They understand just from the physical plane, and they do not realize that the physical is the least of life. It is the outer husk, and there is so much more for you to experience. When you take the time to go within yourself and bring forth this spiritual understanding, when you take the time to go within yourself and get acquainted with that self of you that is divine, to get acquainted with your higher self, the God that dwells within you, there's nothing more important for you to do than to have that rapport, a conscious rapport with the higher self, the God within you, to have a dialogue continuously going on throughout your day in your mind with the God within you, with your higher self, to know that God is there, that God is the life force that you are, to know that his angels in heaven, your helpers, your teachers, and your guides are all around you at all times, giving you the help that you are open for. But there is one thing that you must understand, that God has given you free will, and not even God can break this free will. And when you spend your time and your energies thinking negative, destructive thoughts, feelings, moods, attitudes, desires, all come under the heading of thoughts. When you continuously give your energy to negativity, then that is what you create in your life. But when you decide to be in charge of yourself and to be the boss of your mind and your body, and most of you need a planned program to do this. You need a structured program to work out, to get away from the negative patterns that you have. And there is no end to working at this, because the higher you go in consciousness, the more you see there is to life, and the more there is to experience. It is a beautiful experience to be here with you this evening, and I would like to give you opportunity to ask questions, if you would. If you desire to ask questions about the spiritual laws, about the lesson tonight, feel free and speak up so that it will be recorded on the tape. How many have thought of the word manna very much before tonight? Yes, a few of you have, but not many. In Hawaii, they use this word as taking the spiritual powers to put into physical objects, and they have used it in a negative way in their wars with other tribes. They have used it to give power to a boomerang, and if it just touches their enemy, it knocks them unconscious. This is not the way to use this power, but they have used it in constructive ways also, as healing and as bringing understanding and wisdom to those who are open. This is the most important thing for you to have, is not physical objects or phenomena that, like Moses fed his people and Jesus fed the multitudes, that was a demonstration to show you that it can happen. And Jesus told his disciples, and what he said for his disciples, he meant for everyone. Ye shall do the things that I do, and even greater. And I would have you to realize this and to understand the power that you have within your being. My dear ones, you do have the power of God, because without God you would not be. Without his life force that flows through you, you would not exist. and he created you in his image and likeness. So you are a child of God. And as you mature in spiritual understanding, you mature into God's. You have this ability now, but when you give all of your attention to the outer husk, the physical plane, and the things that are going on here, and give no attention to feeding your soul, then your soul shrivels up, and it is weak. And so many on your plane do not even know they have a soul. They do not even know that they are divine. You in this circle are learning to know this. Some of you have learned it, and some of you are using it. And some of you who are new in this circle may be alarmed at the subject matter that we have tonight and speaking in such a way. But I tell you, it is truth. It is the reality. Your physical plane is illusion. Your physical plane is not real in the sense of eternity, because everything in your physical plane is in a state of deterioration. And everything here is, as Shakespeare said, it is a play on the stage, and we are the actors and actresses. And everything that we see are props for this stage. We came here to learn and to grow, and it is important that we get what we came for. My dear ones, you made a plan before you came into this incarnation, and the Lords of Karma and your guardian angels have helped to make this plan for you, and to bring about greater understanding through having the experience on this physical plane. But when you give all of your time and your energies to just the physical things of life, then when you go through the experience we call death, and you get back home to where your real home is, and you see that you have not used your time in the physical as you could have, you have missed the mark. And there are many who graduate from this plane to our planes who look their life over and are very disappointed when they get here because they did not fulfill their plan that they came to do. You still have free will when you get in the physical, even though you have made a plan to follow and to use to grow and to understand more about your spiritual being. There's much to learn in the universe, and let me say to you, and to some of you this may be a little much, but you are not just of this planet. You are of the universe that has billions and billions of planets that are inhabitable, and you have come from these other planets to this planet because you came from eternity that had no beginning. There is no such thing as time or space, and when you are conditioned as a child to believe in duality and time and space, then it is difficult for you to see and to understand this, because you are dealing with the language that is very limited, and you are dealing with illusion because you were conditioned this way. You were told that the thing that you're sitting on is a chair, and it is a chair only because you were told it is a chair. But in true reality, it is life. Everything that you see on this plane, everything that you experience is life. And life with a capital L is another word for God. God is everywhere present in all of his creations, even in the lower dimensions in the physical plane. As you grow into understanding, you will realize this, and you will take the time to develop your spiritual understanding. and bring the manna from the higher realms to bring about a better understanding for yourself and for mankind as a whole. Groups as you are, all over the world, there are many, many small groups as this who are coming together to learn and to grow. They are the seeds for this new age, and they will bring forth the greater understanding. So you do have a responsibility when you receive these teachings and when you decide to move into higher consciousness. You have a responsibility to yourself, but you have a responsibility to leave the understanding for those who follow you. As I have told you before, everything that you do is impressed upon the ethers. And so those who come after you, if you have left a good impression on the ethers of understanding spiritual things, then they have footprints to step into and bring about their understanding. I know that to some of you this is confusing, but sometime in your growth you must hear it. And you are here tonight because you decided to come. And you were here tonight because your teachers and guides from this side of the realm have taught to you about this while your bodies sleep. And you have decided to be here to bring about a greater understanding. Take advantage of all of the teachings that are available to you, and there are many, many things that are available to you to bring about the feeding of your soul and to nourish your soul. And your soul is your consciousness, your understanding of life, the reality of your being. The physical body is not you. The mind is not you. You are spirit. And when I say soul, I mean the entity that you are, the eternal being that you are. Are there questions that you would ask this evening?
I have one.
Yes.
Could you explain to me why after you make a commitment to advance yourself spiritually, then it seems like everything that physical falls apart and a lot of things happen to you?
Well, whenever you make a decision to advance spiritually, then the physical things on the physical plane have to change. Because you see, everything comes from above down, as I think you have learned. And when you make this decision, you put into motion on the spiritual realms this activity of what we're talking about tonight, manna. And it comes down into the mental realms and then into the physical realms. And it seems to be a destruction and disturbance to your physical life as it has been in the past. But my dear one, this is a very good thing, that everything seems to fall apart as it was in the past, because there are many, many new things ahead of you. And when you hold on to the past, when you hold on to the old ideas, then you have no room for new ideas. You have no room for new experiences. And when you decide on through your higher self to make the changes, then the physical has to change. And things from a physical point of view seem to be destructive, but in true reality, it is a blessing in disguise. Does this help your understanding?
Yes, it does. I just have one more question about it.
Yes.
How should you deal with it then? If you just send love and light into it, are you running away from the problem? Should you deal with them each one individually, or can you just do it as a whole?
It, of course, is an individual thing, and there's not a standard answer for this, because you are all individuals, and each experience that you have, you must handle as individual. But when you handle it with love, divine love, you are always doing it correctly. Ask yourself, the actions, the words, the deeds that you do, and the changes that you make, and the things that you're handling, is it loving? Is it loving? Do the best that you can with the understanding that you have, and call upon your higher self, call upon your teachers and your guides from this side. They are willing, more than willing, to help you when you open the door, but you see you have the free will. And when you fail to call upon them for enlightenment and understanding, then their hands are tied, and they cannot help you. But when you do call upon them, and use your visualization, your inner image, your imagination, the magic genie within you, to bring about light into your mind. Light is a symbol of understanding. Divine light will help you to see the truth. And as you move down the road a little farther in what you call time, you can look back and see that it all turned out for the best. There are many experiences that you've had in the past that you can now see that it was for the best. Is this not true? Mm-hmm. Yes.
Yes.
Did this help your understanding?
Yes, thank you.
Mm-hmm. Are there other questions that you would ask? Feel free to ask the questions. This helps to bring in more life force and more mana into our circle to help our understanding, to feed our souls.
I have a question.
Yeah.
Along the same lines of the questions that she was asking, if you find that you have erred and not dealt with it in love and not asked for guidance, what can you do then to correct that?
You can ask for guidance. You can stop and realize that you have handled it incorrectly, and immediately send love into the situation, into yourself, into all concerned, and ask for understanding of how to clear the situation. There are times, my dear ones, when you make mistakes that you must admit them to others. There are times when you have not called upon your spiritual beings to give you the enlightenment, that you have erred, and so admitting this to yourself first, and then if it is the right thing to do, it is not always the right thing to admit it to others, but if you have made a mistake, then admit it if you feel it is the correct thing to do, if it is your guidance from within, and correct it as best you can, as soon as you can.
Thanks.
Does this help your understanding?
Yes, it does.
Yes. God bless you.
I have a question now from her question.
Yes.
When you said, if you feel it's necessary to admit it to others, in other words, you feel that it's not necessary a lot of times to admit?
There are times when it only causes more confusion, but when your inner guidance tells you to go to this other individual and to apologize and make amends for the mistakes that you have made, then humble yourself enough to do this. Realize that humility is one of the attributes of divine love, and so many are too proud to admit that they made a mistake, even when they know they made a mistake. But it does not matter. It is better to ask forgiveness, to admit that your mistakes. Then this opens the door for many other things. But when you pretend to others that you have not erred, or you do not say anything about it, then it leaves it hanging. and there is a karmic indebtedness that could be involved in this. Do you understand?
Yes, thanks.
Yes. There are times when if you that you should leave it alone. If you when the other person is not enlightened enough to accept your apology or to talk to them, it is better to not say anything, but to just send love into it and to release it to God and ask God's help and your teachers and guides and the Master to help to straighten out the situation. But you will know inside yourself what is the right thing to do. Are there other questions this evening? There is so much to give you, my dear ones. From this plane, we see you struggling on your physical plane, and we see you giving so much time and energy to the physical and serving mammon instead of God. And when you could be developing your spiritual understanding, if you could give just 10% of your time to your soul's growth and truly give it daily, continuously, you would see a great change in yourself. Some of you are doing this, and some of you are not. But if you would give this time to reading the books that would help you, going to classes that would give you the understanding, whether here or somewhere else, wherever you feel led to go, learn to have the inner guidance and to make that contact with the inner self of you so that you can call upon it and receive the answers. This is very important on your physical plane, is to have the contact within you and with your teachers and guides. They are there to help you in every way possible, and they yearn to help you. And when they see that you are going down the wrong road, and when they see that you are wasting your time and not fulfilling your plan, it is hurtful to them. They are still not perfect as you think of as perfect, and they want you to have the best. They release you, and sometimes when your teachers and your guides are not making the right kind of progress with you, then they will turn you over to someone else. And then on another case, when you have grown in spirit to a much higher consciousness, then you have outgrown your teachers and guides, and then they will give you someone else that is on your level of thinking, that can bring you higher. There is much work done on this side that you know not of, that you do not consider. But we are working with the physical plane and everyone on this planet, and doing everything that we can to help bring about the enlightenment of your divine being.